we fans of Star Trek look at Star Trek and say, wow, they imagined that you could travel hundreds of times the speed of light. They imagined that you could flip your little device in your hand and talk to someone thousands of miles away. They imagined you could walk up to a door and it would open without you touching it.
When I saw Star Trek, that was the least believable part of it to me for the future. How does the door know? I was good with the photon torpedoes, the phasers, the communicators, the tricorders.
But the automatic door was just...
It was not happening.
Like, come on, guys.
This is StarTalk. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist. And this is a Cosmic Queries edition, which means we got Chuck Nice in the house.
That's right.
All right, Chuck.
What's happening?
Now, your questions today are not random.
They are not indeed.
They are all on one subject.
That's right.
And that subject is?
The only subject. Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Star
We
Trek.
are overdue to have a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, that's right.
But I could get a little ways on that topic, but we had to go to our geek in chief.
We called him and said, make it so.
Charles Liu, welcome back to StarTalk.
Thank you, Neil. Hello, Chuck.
Charles Liu, for those of you who don't know, is a friend and colleague. He's a professor at the City University of New York, still at Staten Island, but you're at the Graduate Center as well?
Yes.
Which interacts with graduate students and things, right?
It's a combination.
Yeah, good. And you have your own podcast.
It is called The Looniverse.
The Looniverse. I see what you did there.
Very, very cool.
I can't take credit for it. My family told me to use it. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah.
No, that's
So
good.
like,
That's good.
Okay.
We'll give them that one, okay? And I just learned my boy here, I'm so proud of him.
Okay.
I can say that because I'm 10 years older than him, so I get to say that. He just came out. Is this out yet?
It is out.
It is out
Yes.
yet. There's the Handy Answer Book, which is a series.
Okay.
And then there's the Handy Put in Your Favorite Subject Answer Book.
Right.
Okay. This is one that, where's it been all our lives? Okay. The Handy Quantum Physics Answer Book. Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Everybody who is claiming to invoke quantum physics to explain stuff they don't understand needs this book.
Absolutely. And there's a little Schrödinger cat right on the bottom.
Oh, you got a cat, right? So, and you got the little atom.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh.
Oh, that's so cool. Look at that.
Because this is, you don't research in quantum physics.
That's right. I use quantum
You
physics
use quantum physics.
every day.
So it's a user's guide.
That's really what it is. Yeah. The answer book is not designed to sort of reveal the most detailed, deep in the weeds research results, but it's kind of like we all know quantum is there and we wonder about it. So got a little question, got a little answer. There's a whole bunch.
Well, there's a whole biology section here.
Yeah.
Okay.
How does quantum work in biology?
Work
a lot of
in
us don't
biology.
understand
Yeah,
that.
that's very
Our
cool.
eyes work because of quantum.
Yes, they do.
Right?
Why?
The photons that come hit our eyes, they have to activate certain cells. And the rods and cones are activated when you have a quantum reaction from a photon and a cell.
So those are molecules that are absorbing the photon. Something happens when the photon gets absorbed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's called sight.
Oh.
Ooh, you got a chapter on quantum entanglement.
Yes.
You've got bios on people who contributed here. And what is the size of the electron? That's my favorite one.
I love it.
Okay.
And what is the size of the electron?
It's at most 10 to the minus 18 meter in diameter. But the
10
thing
to the minus
is,
18.
right, so it's
why
a billionth
are
of a
we
billionth of a
minus-
meter.
Why are we putting it in the minus? What measurement would it be in the positive? Like, why you gotta be all negative?
Fair enough. A billionth of a billionth of a meter.
A billionth of a meter.
A billionth of a billionth.
A billionth of a billionth.
Yes.
Now a billionth.
At most.
What is a nano? What's that?
That's a billionth.
That's a billion.
That's just billion.
So this is like
Billionth.
a nano.
Billionth.
Get your THs in there.
Billionth.
Right. And a nano is 10 to the minus 9.
That's 10 to the minus 9.
So 10 to the minus 9 times 10 to the minus 9 is 10
is
to
the 10.
A nano.
10 to the
nano.
minus
It's a
18.
nano.
Yeah.
It's a
As
more
opposed to-
Nano. Okay.
No, the thing is, though, the electron is so small and it has such a weird profile that its size isn't really determinate.
Right.
depending on how you try to measure it or try to do things.
Wait a minute.
it's
So
really hard to do.
if the size is indeterminate, how do you measure it to get that number?
No, he didn't say. You weren't listening to him. He didn't say this is the size of the electron. He said it's smaller than this size. Because that was the smallest size we are capable of measuring.
So we can't measure anything smaller than that, but it's smaller.
And it might mean that the electron has no size at all.
Could it be?
For all we know.
So could it be that the electron is existing?
It's in the book. We got to get to the show.
Oh, that's right. This is not the show. See, this is what he did. This is what happens. This is what
not the
happens when
show.
you mess with the quantum, man.
If you mess with the quantum, you get the horns.
You get the horns, baby.
Oh my
And they're
gosh.
entangled. Those horns are in. Okay.
Okay. Star Trek. I'm old enough to say that the first round of Star Trek occurred in my living memory.
Mm-hmm.
That's how old I am.
That's cool.
I didn't see Star Trek until reruns.
Yeah, I saw
well,
it
of course,
when it came on weekly. I wasn't allowed to watch TV during a school week.
Oh, you
So
poor thing.
You had
most
some good parents.
so most of the episodes I would ultimately see would be in reruns.
Mhm, mhm.
But I was around when people were talking about Star Trek and what it meant to the people and to
I
culture.
can't believe they got the show where there's a black woman who answers the phone, but she's actually sitting next to all the other white people on the bridge. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, let's spend a minute before we get all racial on it.
Okay.
Let's find out what about the technologies do you find most intriguing? And remind us, what year is it? The original season took place in what year
The
of
original
the future?
season supposedly took place around the year 2260.
Okay, so that would have been 200 years in the future.
That's right.
So the 1760s looks to the 1960s. Surely what the 1960s would look like to 2260.
Right.
Surely. That's a completely rational
That's
thinking there.
Right.
I mean, it could be. I mean, however,
Look, in 76 they'd have Conestoga wagons, and in the 1960s we're going to the moon. Thank you.
But
Enough.
I'm just
we're
gonna
done
say,
here.
There's kind of a hockey stick element to
No,
the
there's not.
progression.
No.
Yes.
You didn't read my recent book. No, you think it's a hockey stick. It's not.
You think that we're going to have faster than light travel?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm saying the hockey stick is deeper than you know. The answer is it's always a hockey stick.
I like that.
Okay, I'll get to that. We're going to have
I
it.
see where you're
Okay,
going.
so
I like
Charles,
it.
you are an impressionable kid. You are a technologist culturally. You're a scientist. What in the science technology of Star Trek really impacted you?
Well, I always feel that I have to think back to Albert Einstein, who said that creativity and imagination was more important than knowledge. What you could imagine to
When you're
ultimately
Einstein,
happen.
you can say that.
Right.
But there's some dumbass people out there that don't know. No, I'm not.
Once you get to a certain stage.
Chuck has been influencing me. It's,
Love it.
A basic level of knowledge is, of course, extremely important.
Right.
But in order to really make advances, you really have to imagine something before it can exist, right? So what we
to dream it.
Yeah. So what we come from Star Trek, we fans of Star Trek, look at Star Trek and say, wow, they imagined that you could travel hundreds of times the speed of light.
Right.
They imagined that you could flip your little device in your hand and talk to someone thousands of miles away.
Hello,
They
Moto.
imagined, they imagined you could walk up to a door and it would open without you touching it. So
Wait,
all
are you
of that
saying that
technology
when
is
Star Trek came
incredible.
around, automatic doors weren't?
Of course not.
No.
Did you hear? I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. When I saw Star Trek, that was the least believable part of it to me for the future.
I remember you said that
Yes,
once.
that's why. That's what I'm saying. I said, how does the door know?
Yeah.
Okay. I was good with the photon torpedoes, the phasers, the communicators, the tricorders, and
But the automatic door was just
it was not happening.
like, come on, guys.
The best we had were pressure pads.
That's right.
that
Going
you-
into like supermarkets.
Going
Right.
into supermarkets because
Right.
you've got groceries and things.
Right.
You'd step on the pad, but you needed room for the door to swing
the door
open.
would swing open.
There were no
still.
pocket
Right,
doors or
right,
anything.
Right.
So tell me.
Yeah.
Where were you with the technology?
Well, as a kid, I didn't know yet how revolutionary all this stuff was. I just naturally assumed it. It's like, oh, okay, in the future, they'll have these phaser things. And it was really cool with the phasers that you could set them on stun. I just really liked the fact that they were designed not to be lethal.
So you're a kid, and that's just the future.
Yeah.
But they're thinking that future 200 years. I don't know that they're thinking that it's in their near future. in the
That's
future of the lifetime of people alive at the time of the show.
right. Yeah.
Because you go down the list, they had tablet computers. We got that.
Yep.
So,
Boom.
That's right. Boom. There it
checklist.
is.
Okay.
In my hand right now, a tablet.
Okay. We're not getting paid by Apple for him to hold up the logo in front of it.
right.
Okay. Apple call.
now I got to read everything like this.
Tablet computers, handheld communicators.
That's right.
In fact, we went through
Flip
flip
phone.
phones, and now that's old. That's
right.
old.
That's old news.
That's old. If they try to go back with who's got the Samsung has the foldy
Z
thing,
Flip.
Yeah.
the Z Flip.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to still feel the flip,
Mhm.
but telepresence. So
Yep. We can Zoom with everybody. We can
Right.
meet
I
with
think
everybody.
AT&T was already on the heels of that with their video phone, and I don't think people realized at the time that when you call someone, they don't always want you looking at them.
Well, yeah, we learned that the hard way in the pandemic.
Oh my goodness. But you know, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, there was already a video phone, right? Right at the beginning of the movie, somebody is calling their child,
Right, and it was
at the end,
AT&T.
AT&T says, you know, your cost is $1.70. Thanks for calling.
Exactly. So the 2001 film was shot in 1968.
That's right.
Which was within just a couple of years of Star Trek.
That's right.
And so they're imagining video phones not 200 years in the future,
Right.
just 35 years in the future.
They got it more correct.
Yeah, they got it a little more correct there.
Well, clearly everybody got it correct because no matter where you went in the galaxy and no matter what species you encountered, Lieutenant Uhura, put on screen. And then the person would come up on screen and they'd be like,
yeah, Charles, where's the camera putting them up on screen?
exactly.
Where is that?
No, it was a backlit screen. It was probably OLED or something like that. A lot of those technological things were actually done for entertainment, storytelling purposes, right?
Right.
Not for scientific imagination.
I mean, in our world.
Yeah, the transporter was a classic example. They didn't want to spend a lot of time shuttling people back and forth on little boats. And so they just immediately, instantaneously brought someone from over here to over there. It was only after that became such a cool feature of the entire show that people started to retcon it and retroactively try to figure out what was the physics behind it. And they ran into all kinds of problems. So they just sort of said, yeah, it just sort of works.
You give them a hall pass on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard that the cost, I just heard this once and I didn't verify it, but it seemed plausible that they costed out what it would take to have a ship land, have people get off the ship, and then get back on a ship and go back and dock.
Right.
So there's a cost, given how many times they're going back and forth to planets, to have to stage the landing of a spacecraft and have it take. So they just pulled this out of an orifice to make it happen. And now, like, what's the word you use?
Retcon, retroactive continuity.
Ooh, that's a thing.
I
Yeah.
never heard of that.
It's very common in comic books. Something happens, and then you have to go back and say, "Oh, this is what
This is
actually
why it
stitch it.
This is why it
You have to
works."
stitch it back
That's
together.
You reverse engineer the science.
That's what it is.
Pretty much what it is.
That's what
yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah,
cool.
and so what about warp drives? That was it. That's really what blew this open for me.
I think so. We all
Because they
want to
didn't say,
travel
"Oh, we just
places.
go faster than light." No,
Yeah.
they didn't do that.
That's right.
Because they knew that's not allowed.
That's right.
This
And
is
so
tipping their hat to Einstein in a very important way.
They call it a warp factor, whatever.
Yes.
Right. And that warp drive eventually became also a significant storytelling thing, because then that meant it was an engine, and that engine had to be worked with exotic materials. There was a new thing invented called dilithium.
Dilithium
And the
crystals.
crystals were somehow important in making all of the matter-antimatter transaction work properly, although the terms matter and antimatter weren't used all that much in the original Star Trek.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
Right.
And then later on, the so-called photon torpedoes were also revealed to be basically big chunks of antimatter that were in torpedoes that you could fire at people. But the ideas did come from this sense that we got to get from point A to point B, and we know they're far away. So we have to find some way to get from here to there, and that takes you somewhere that's not the usual dimensions of space. So that led to all kinds of wonderful stories, numerous episodes where some sort of warp drive failure or some sort of transporter failure would lead to a storyline.
whole
that you
story.
would,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, that's true.
Really
okay.
good stuff.
Yeah.
One of the most revered episodes is called Mirror Mirror, where a transporter accidentally brings several members of the bridge crew into a parallel universe something that we might think of in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics,
Exactly.
right? And in this parallel universe, everyone was evil.
Evil Spock
Yes.
and evil Kirk.
Marvelous stories, right? And you could tell how the evil Spock was because he had a goatee. Whereas the good Spock was clean shaven, right?
Yes.
In an age where cyber threats are everywhere, Bitdefender has been at the forefront of cybersecurity for over 20 years, fighting cybercrime, dismantling ransomware groups, and preventing over $1.6 billion in ransom fees. Now, Bitdefender has reached new heights, literally. In November of 2024, Bitdefender secured the Drop Coal device launched to the International Space Station. This groundbreaking project studies how droplets form in space, and Bitdefender's gravity zone solution ensures the device's research is protected throughout the duration of the mission. With no real-time updates or physical intervention possible, Gravity Zone's autonomous threat detection and minimal resource usage keep the mission safe from cyber risks, be it on Earth or in space. Whether you're securing devices in space or complex systems on the ground, Bitdefender delivers resilient, automated protection where failure simply isn't an option. Find out more about Bitdefender and try out their services by visiting the link in the video description. Now, let's get back to the show.
And that in the old days it was a white hat and a black hat. But the goatee, because the devil has a goatee.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's right. So wonderful stories.
Why wouldn't they?
So
I had some issues with things that maybe they could have thought about a little more deeply.
Oh, for sure.
So, for example, the phasers that came out of the ship.
Yeah.
If it's a directed energy weapon.
Yeah.
Like a variant on a laser, of course, phaser. Yes. You should not be able to see it from the side.
Correct. Because if
Unless
it's properly
someone,
focused,
hit chalkboard erasers to make a cloud for you to see it go through the glass. It is the vacuum of space.
That's right.
It should not be visible from the side.
That's right. And that had to be retconned also. The idea
so they have the
idea that phasers and lasers are completely different things was addressed later on in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where they showed that lasers were extremely weak compared to phasers. Phasers are a whole different kind of energy beam weapon.
Right.
And as a result, they could be seen from the side. Furthermore, they dissipated over time so that if you missed, it wouldn't keep going, and
forever.
eventually, take out a planet or something.
By accident.
Yeah, 6 years later, there's just some ship that explodes.
Houston, we have a problem.
A puff of smoke. All right, so what you're saying is so powerful, there's some energy leakage sideways that you could then see it. That's what that would mean.
And you know what's funny? I read a great thing about Gene Roddenberry when they were coming up. They originally were going to call them lasers, but they said, well, lasers are a real technology.
We got to futurize this.
Right, we got to make sure. Who knows where lasers will be in 10 years and we'll look kind of stupid.
That's right.
So we got to future-proof this.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Because indeed, lasers wound up in everything that we use.
Yes.
Right. And there was a day
DVD,
when Laser Floyd was the big attraction in the evening hours on the weekend at planetariums.
Right.
All right. And that's the 1970s. By the late 80s, lasers were like impulse items at Kmart. So no longer could you say, let's go see lasers.
Right.
It lost the draw.
The Laser Light Show this Saturday night. Yeah, exactly.
One last thing, and then we got to go to Q&A because that's the whole point of this.
Okay.
It's hard enough having a conversation with somebody on the moon because the light travel time delays to like 2.5 seconds.
Yes.
So you can't have witty repartee.
Right.
They're talking to people halfway across the galaxy in Star Trek.
That's right.
I don't know that was addressed in the original series.
In the original series, it really wasn't addressed.
We just accepted the fact.
We just expect, you could do it. Okay. Your transponders, your communicators were just instantaneous. In the Next Generation, they came up with this idea of subspace communications. It was more properly addressed that the communications did not go through regular space. In fact, it almost a different dimension, or kind of sidestepped the dimensions of ordinary space that we went
some
to.
kind of communication wormhole that they were able to.
Yeah, okay.
This kind of communication was instantaneous. It was way faster than even the fastest starships.
So my sense of the transporter is, because I get this question every now and then, and they say, how close are we to transporters? And I say, sometimes your goal is solved by a different solution that might be more creative or simpler than the one you think is necessary.
That's right.
And so I foresee a day where we do get command of wormholes, and you just step through a wormhole.
Yeah, you don't need a transporter.
I don't need to disassemble your
entire molecular construct and makeup and put it back together.
And put it back together correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in that sense, right, you're dependent on the network. Right. The Star Trek Discovery series focuses on something called the mycelium network.
Right.
It's based
Get
on
that from biology.
like mushrooms.
Like mushrooms.
Almost, yeah, right. And of course, mushrooms are now very popular in science fiction. It is the basis for The Last of Us, the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
Right?
Fungus, more broadly.
Yeah, fungus more than mushrooms. But this mycelium thing,
Just to be
dependent.
clear, fungus is a branch
Of
In the
It is
in
a
the
kingdom of the tree of life.
Yeah.
Right?
As diverse and cool as animals, as plants.
Correct. Within the fungus kingdom, you have things like yeast, but you also have mushrooms that we eat, and mushrooms that'll kill us, and mushrooms that'll take you on your own subspace trip.
Right. The networks like that are very much like a public transportation network. You can only go to certain stations or certain places that you want, right? Transport allows you to go literally anywhere that you want to go, whenever you want to go.
No,
there.
I'm saying you have a machine that opens up a wormhole, like Rick in Rick and Morty, like Mr. Magic Guy in who's this guy?
Dr. Strange.
Dr. Strange.
Yeah.
He opens a hole wherever he wants and whenever he wants.
Yeah.
So don't try to defend transporters on that
but then
basis.
you're in magic, dude. You're not in science
No,
anymore.
Rick uses real science.
Oh, of course.
Well, yeah, because well, of
Obviously.
course. Yes.
Whereas Dr. Strange,
Dr. Strange.
He uses magic. Right. And so we were duly informed that this whole study of the mycelium networks for mushrooms and mushrooms in general, fungus, is mycology.
Yes.
Which I think is a pretty cool
a wonderful area of study
out there.
I recently heard a scientist describe the possibility that the reason that we mammals were able to evolve after the dinosaurs had their terrible extinction,
Right.
is because
we had a better relationship.
We had a better relationship with fungi.
with fungi.
Yeah.
Really?
Our body temperatures allowed us to resist infections and parasitic relationships with fungi, whereas, say, reptiles, which are cold-blooded, were not. And so over those 65 million years, the reptiles stayed, like crocodiles, for example, they're still roughly the same as they used to be, whereas we are way different from those little tiny
reptilian. No, Chuck still has a reptilian brain.
Without a doubt.
We all still have reptilians.
Without a doubt.
Some of us are just bigger and some of us just smaller.
I also like to sun on a rock. So,
me too.
With your belly out?
yes, exactly.
Mouth wide open.
I forgot they do over their mouths, don't they? So if you look at the tree of life, what impresses me most, intrigues me most, is that the common ancestor between animals and fungus, between mushrooms and humans, split later in the tree of life than its common ancestor split with green plants, which means humans and mushrooms are more genetically
related.
Either of us are to green plants.
To green plants.
Ain't that some
Ain't
stuff?
that something? Okay.
Pretty amazing.
And that's why.
Maybe that's why I love shiitake so much.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why no one has ever accused kale of tasting meaty.
Right. That's so
But
true.
people have used the word with mushrooms.
Ain't nobody ever had a kale burger, but people have had portobello
They have
burgers.
portobello burgers, and the umami that's been described
Yes.
is common in not only meats but in mushrooms. The umami flavor.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you eat it and you go, umami.
Oh my! Is that where that came from?
That's
In Japan, the first umami, because they came up with that
That's
one. I think
right.
it was Japanese, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Japanese. Aaron Jackson says, hello, Dr. Tyson, Star-Lord, and Dr. Luniverse.
Ooh. Thank you.
Aaron from Lake Balboa, California here. My question has to do with the space-time travel at warp speed. A planet A is 100 light years from planet B. It would take the starship Voyager 100 years to arrive at warp speed 101. Now, my question is, doesn't it get closer or farther away from planet A over that duration of 100 years, depending on the respective trajectories? In other words, the expansion of the universe, does it take warp speed? Does that take into account the expansion of the universe itself?
I presume that it must, right? It's not hard to make that calculation.
Right.
But Charles,
what we're talking
the
about,
universe is not expanding that far in the time it takes them to do it during the TV commercial.
What we should keep in mind is that most of the travel, in fact, almost all the travel of Star Trek happens within our Milky Way galaxy.
Within the Milky Way. Right.
And within that space, the expansion of the universe is completely counteracted by the gravitational pull that's of the objects in the galaxy.
Right. So just to make sure I got it clear.
Right.
We're experiencing the expansion of the universe, but because we are coalesced by the gravity of our own galaxy, we're not experiencing it like we were outside of the galaxy. We're kind of all in it together, moving together.
To make a stronger point, that the forces that keep your body together, the molecular forces, the gravity, our proximity to Earth and Earth's proximity to the sun, and the sun's proximity to the center of the galaxy, that is tighter than any expansion of the universe would manifest on that scale.
Okay, I got you.
So we win.
We win.
Right.
Like the expansion of the universe is never going to pull us apart until you get to that place called the Big Rip. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Anyway, so go ahead. That's a whole nother show. Another show.
That was an explainer in another episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And so I wouldn't worry about that motion. It's something that we can compensate for easily.
With no problem.
And you sure he's not asking the question that in Star Trek's version of the warp drive, aren't they pulling the object that's in front of you closer to you and then expanding the space behind you so that you're effectively moving fast? That's not what he's asking?
That's the warp shell bubble.
Yeah, that's the thing that Miguel Alcubierre suggested in his calculations.
Dude, what is up with you, man? You are out of this world. I'm telling you right now. It's like, we just mentioned warp drive, and you're like, Michel Alcubierre. I'm like, where do you come up with this?
I didn't come up with it.
Who is
Miguel
Michel
did.
Alcubierre?
No, he's a guy. There's a lot written about that idea.
Right.
Enabling. Okay, that paper would have been intriguing and interesting just by itself in the scientific community.
Okay.
But sci-fi people
took it and ran with it?
Ran with it.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you just opened up a whole new world for me.
Well, enjoy it. It's kind of fun.
And by the way, you pronounced it in a French way, but he's Spanish or Mexican.
Mexican.
He's Mexican.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's just like, Michel, what's up, Vato?
Miguel.
Miguel. Miguel.
Right. So, yes, it is true that you pull space backward and forward, but in the continuity of Star Trek, the idea is after you've done the pulling, it snaps back into place, and you haven't noticed any change because it happens so fast. Wow. So you don't have to worry about space-time and distances distorting on a long-term basis. It just happens so quickly because you're traveling through space-time in a subspace bubble. Kind of.
Yeah.
Treat space and traveling through space like that.
Okay.
Amazing. All right, let's go.
Keep going.
Here we go. This is, oh my goodness. I don't know how to say this.
You never know how to say anybody's name. So don't.
Isn't that
this
true?
This is not some exception to
All right, I'm going to call you Joe. This is Joe Samuel Lopez. He says, hello, StarTalk Enterprise. Oh, I see what you did there, Joe. J-Lo here from Portugal. Here's my simple question. What Star Trek characters do you identify with the most? And thank you. What a great
I love that. I totally have an answer to that.
You have one too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
My answer is kind of a cop-out, but actually the reason I like Star Trek is because I don't affiliate with any individual character. I like the stories separate from me.
That's a cop-out.
That's what I told you.
Next.
That's what I told you. No. What's yours?
No, Chuck.
Okay.
Oh, Chuck. Okay.
So the one I like the most is Mr. Spock because I loved how logical he was, and I thought it would be so great to live your life without emotion and never be affected by things, just be able to assess them and analyze. But the one I truly identify with the most is Scotty because he's always freaking the hell out. You know, Cotton, I can't do it. I'm sorry. She's got a blue cotton. I can't do it. He always did it, which is more like who I am. He always said he can't do it, but then he always did it. So it would be Scotty for real.
For me, it's James Tiberius Kirk.
Really?
Oh, really?
Because, I've been in leadership positions, and you can lead in many different ways.
Right.
All right. One of them is you can just lead by example. Another one is you can just follow what everyone wants you to do.
Yep.
So you're the leader because you're actually following them.
Yep.
All right. That's technically what our elected officials
Well,
are
you're a
supposed to
manager.
do.
Well, that's right.
Okay, then you're managed rather than, okay? And so there are different ways to do that. For me, Kirk would get into his own fights. Jean-Luc Picard, did he ever go into fisticuffs with anybody?
Oh, yes.
As much as Captain Kirk did?
He didn't have to.
Oh, there was always a flashback, though.
There
It
were
wasn't like he
certain
was-
Oh, it was a
plenty of
flashback.
times.
It was always
Oh,
like,
you're referring to Tapestry.
yes.
Yes,
it
the
was
episode where he
always a
gets stabbed
stab
through the
and he-
heart by
and-
an
right.
angry Nausicaan over a pool fight.
Yeah.
Well, Domjock, technically.
But it
But-
ends up
no,
it
no.
ends up being the defining and pivotal moment of his life that allows him to be the dynamic, definitive
okay.
person that he is. But
Sort of.
yeah.
I like the fact
Yeah.
that Spock could not beat Kirk in a game of chess because Kirk made decisions that were not
Illogical.
not always logical.
Right.
And that means he was more human. And being human and fully experiencing everything that makes you human means the emotions have to flow through you in some way that you can manage and control, perhaps, but certainly express.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he would fight his own fights, he could outsmart computers. I always wanted that power. Okay. The computer says, this is the prime directive. We must do this way. But wait a minute. You are yourself a contamination on the...
Error.
Sterilize.
Yeah.
So that's right, the sterilized episode. So he would put it into a do loop,
Right.
and the computer couldn't get out of it, and the smoke would come out of the computer.
Yeah, but I think that that's really something that William Shatner had the writers put in more than... I just got a feeling that William Shatner was like, I am not going to be dumber than a computer. And I certainly am not going to be dumber than Nimoy. So you're going to make me win at chess and beat the computer. Like,
that is a little weird to come after the fact and beat the guy at chess.
Right.
Okay. So I identified immensely with his character.
Wow.
right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
I love, that's good. There's so many of them now. Like it's hard. That's a hard question, because
Oh, by the way, was it Sotheby's? Christie's had a Star Trek memorabilia auction.
Yes.
Okay. And so I attended. It was a multi-day thing. It was big. And I attended. And one of the things they sold, this is an obscure fact. One of the things they auctioned were foam phasers. It is the phaser on the hip of the stunt doubles
gotcha.
in those scenes.
That makes sense.
Wow.
So that they don't get hurt.
So they don't get hurt by that. Yeah.
Right.
Or break the phasers because like they only had 6 of them.
That's right.
Let's be honest.
So I just thought it was cool. They thought of everything,
Yeah,
right? When
they
you're
really-
filming, you got to do
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Very cool.
Have you ever wanted one of your questions on the universe answered? We all have questions about the universe. From black holes to quasars, quantum entanglement, wormholes. There is no end to the depths of cosmic curiosity. Well, the entry level of Patreon membership with StarTalk gets you just that. I think it starts at $5 a month. You have access to the question line that reaches our Cosmic Query programming. And not only that, we produce a special Cosmic Queries installment just for Patreon members.
So if you weren't the director of the Hayden Planetarium, what do you think you would be doing? What?
Okay, but this had to be another universe. It wouldn't happen in this universe.
Okay.
I'd be a songwriter for Broadway musicals.
Ooh.
So that's the entry level, and the perks ascend from there. There's a level, in fact, where we send you an autographed copy of one of my latest books. Right now, it's Starry Messenger, Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization. And it's signed with my fancy fountain pen with purple ink. So I invite you to just check the link below. And all of that money goes to our ability to experiment with new ways of bringing the universe down to Earth. So thank you for those who have already joined, and we welcome others to participate in this grand adventure of what it is to bring the universe down to Earth. As always, keep looking up.
All right, here we go. This is Bryant, and Bryant says, how close are we to developing a warp drive engine so that humans can have the ability to travel faster than light? So, first of all, is faster than light travel, is it possible? I mean, period.
We were just talking about Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive idea, right? Where you can warp space. No object can travel through space faster than light. It's a straightforward rule.
Object as distinct from energy and photons.
If you have other things, though, then they might be able to travel faster than light.
Now, what about the whole idea of warping space, bending it, so you're not traveling through the medium of space faster than the speed of light? What you're doing is you're bringing points of space together and then unfolding it so that you have traveled faster than the speed of light, but you have not broken the speed limit itself. What about that?
Aren't you effectively moving through a wormhole to connect those 2 points, though? We're still in wormhole world here.
What people are talking about when they're traveling faster than light is about moving from point A to point B, at a speed faster than 186,202 miles per second, It's that kind of thing. So what you were describing is exactly Neil described, some sort of passageway that makes it different. Can we actually move from point A to point B at those speeds? Still no. But can we make space allow us to get from a point A in space to point B in space faster than light would have taken us to get there? That is still mathematically possible. The energetics of it, though, are way off the scale.
Mathematically possible?
Well, Einstein's general theory of relativity, shows the Einstein field equations.
Like the way he says it. Dude, Einstein's showed this. I have to explain this? Okay.
I didn't mean it that way, Chuck. I'm sorry. Just saying that with Einstein's general theory of relativity, his field equations basically only at this moment, even 100 years after they've been written, only have a few solutions that we understand. You can manipulate the mathematics of it in many, many different ways, most of which are nonsensical physically, but some of which might actually show that there is a possible way of moving through space and time with that sort of faster than light warping technique. But in order to do it with enough energy to move and motion and kinetic stuff, that's the part you get stuck. Because the math shows you ways you can warp space and time to make it happen. But actually getting a piece of mass,
object,
like you and me, or a spaceship from that point to that other point requires...
Say a piece of ass or a piece of mass? What did he... I heard... A piece of ass like you and me. I swear that's what he said.
Well, I was going to accept the compliment no matter what. Okay.
Both statements are true, but I said mass.
But he's referring to the mass.
I'm like, mass. I question not Charles's taste.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so that's how it works. You can move space and time, but moving a piece of material from one point in space and time to another point in space and time, that requires a lot more than just having the mathematical ability.
Let's settle that here. So it's not a matter of new physics. It's a matter of technology working within a solution to that already known physics.
That's right.
Wow.
And I think we're very, very far away from it.
Far away.
All right.
Yeah. But possible is what I heard.
It has not been ruled out completely.
I love it.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
We'll get a few more minutes. See how many we can slip in here.
This is Opal Lehman Space Nerd. Opal Lehman Space Nerd says, "Hi, my name is Opal Lehman. For Chuck, that's layman." Okay. God. I'm a 14-year-old. Really? 14 too?
Hey!
Oh,
14.
man. I'm a 14-year-old Atlanta, Georgia. And I was wondering how the antimatter warp drive containment system works. I read somewhere in the Space Chronicles book that they would need to hold the antimatter in a chamber made of antimatter so it wouldn't have to interact with the matter. But I was wondering how the antimatter containment system would be held. Would it be suspended in a field of magnets or what?
That is correct. And by the way, I love that a 14-year-old is thinking about
that.
This is just a wonderful thing.
I love that a 14-year-old just dissed me.
or thought ahead of you to know that
I would need help there.
Right. So what we're saying here is matter, antimatter, of course, annihilates
when they
in contact, but if it's contained within a magnetic vessel,
Right.
a magnetic bottle of some kind, then it would basically bounce off the sides of the bottle without ever touching the matter that's exterior to it.
You would need to make sure that your antimatter is charged either positively or negatively, and then you would create the bottle with that same kind of charge, and it would be contained inside this so-called bottle, but it's not actually a physical bottle
not a
made
physical-
up of matter.
And by the way, the charges,
The field is the bottom. The field is the bottom.
the charges interact with the magnetic field, and why do they do that? Because it is one force, the electromagnetic force.
Yo,
They go together.
that's really
That's
cool.
why they're not just separate entities.
That is so
That's
cool.
why they can talk to each other.
That's amazing.
It's good.
And then because they're like charged, it's kind of bouncing off of it.
That's right.
Dude, that's amazing.
Exactly.
I love it. God, even science fiction is awesome as science. That's so great.
All right.
All right, here we go. This is Brian Lacey. Brian says, hi, guys, from Baltimore. Brian from Baltimore here. As our technological needs increase, so does our need for a strong and reliable power grid. In Star Trek, they're powering giant ships and even bigger space stations. I know fusion is always 20 years away, but in the far future, what are they using? Also, how are they powering similar, smaller devices like phasers?
That's right.
It's amazing because a phaser is very small, but a huge power source.
Right. So where's all the power come from? And don't just say dilithium crystals.
Because I don't have enough, Captain. I don't have enough. Okay.
It is a question that hasn't been satisfactorily answered. The idea must be that they have some sort of amazing battery, right? Some sort of power supply that they can store enough power in like a
Because
phaser.
you don't see them refueling anywhere.
That's right. You can wipe out entire buildings with something that's just in the palm of your hand.
And that makes sense because they can actually set phasers to overload,
That's
which
right.
I don't know why you would ever include
Overload.
that.
What happens in overload?
They blow up.
They blow
like
up.
bombs. You can use them as
as a bomb.
detonative devices, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that sound it makes that. Yeah. Okay.
Just so you know it's about to blow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the way that you draw power out of something like that must be through some sort of a battery or a capacitor or something like that. But it has never been properly described just how that could be put into something.
Just quickly tell everyone what a capacitor is.
Capacitor is basically two plates of conducting things.
Like metal,
And-
typically.
Yeah, and you can store charge on one, waiting to jump onto the other. Basically, it's a something that can work like a battery, but transfer a huge amount of electricity very quickly. So, for example, defibrillators have a capacitor in them. You have the battery charged with capacitor, and then when the defibrillator goes off, the capacitor sends thousands of volts in a fraction of a second. And that's how that works.
From one contact to the other.
Correct.
And it goes through the heart, ideally,
Yeah.
to
Right,
pump it into
to reset it. Unfortunately, the power sources of these devices have never been properly described
In any of the
Star Trek
episodes.
universe, in any of the
Okay,
episodes.
all right.
How
you
convenient.
just have to assume that some battery or some capacitor has incredible power.
Okay. So, Chuck, I don't know how much. We got time for like one more question.
Really?
here.
Oh, man. Doggone it. Here we go. This is Steph. And Steph says, Captain's Log 2024, Alpha, Omega. Greetings, Dr. Tyson, Liu, and Lord Chuck Nice. And that's enough of that from me. He says, as we reflect on the world of Star Trek, which is set around the year 2260, I wonder about the feasibility of achieving the advanced technology depicted in the series by that time. Considering how Back to the Future 2 envisioned the technological landscape of the early 2000s and how closely it aligned with our actual progress, aside from the absence of flying cars, what are the prospects of realizing similar advancements as portrayed in Star Trek by the year 2260? So, what are we looking at? Are we really looking at, okay, I'll put it to you this way to call this down. What percentage of these technological wonders that we see in Star Trek will actually exist by the year?
Or within 200 years.
Within 200 years. My prediction, 1%.
Dag! That is so disappointing.
Not at all. 1% of all the stuff that was shown out there.
That's true.
is
That's a
pretty
lot of
amazing
great stuff.
Think of what's already happened, right? Communicators, video calls. We were
Right.
talking about this
Yeah,
earlier,
we're talking about
right?
that, right?
There's a lot that's already existed. We've basically hit the point in Star Trek Treknology where we are doing stuff that our
Did you
regular...
just make that up, Treknology? Because that's really cool.
That's a long... No, Treknology is a long, oft-used phrase. Don't worry.
Treknology.
Treknology. Where have I been?
No credit for it.
That's
I can
great.
Take no credit.
But go
for
ahead.
it.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we've reached the point where the stuff we don't know how it works yet basically needs physics we don't understand yet. So if 1 out of 100 of the physics we don't understand is resolved, I'm happy. I'm psyched. All right.
Gotcha.
But yes,
I see what you're doing there. That's so you're relating it back to the actual science,
Right.
the discoveries that we may make that will allow these technological advances to come true.
That's why I made the point earlier. Are we missing physics or are we missing technology?
Right.
And one has to come. That generally, one doesn't occur without the other.
Okay.
In a scenario where you've got technology doing amazing, fun things.
Mhm.
Right. You need the attendant physics to go with it.
I think that's where we
Interesting.
are now.
Right.
And I'm
Interesting.
excited because we are doing amazing things in our discoveries and our studies. And once we break through that physics level,
Mhm.
what is dark matter? What is dark energy?
Right.
Just to start with.
Yeah, dark energy is opposite gravity.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything it does is what gravity does not want it to do. And so that if we can harness that, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
you're talking about an entirely new realm of physics opening up.
Realm of physics.
Yeah, that's
Just
wow. Now I'm excited.
Think about a realm of physics.
It's a good
That's
thing.
a really exciting way to look at it.
Other realms of physics in 1900 and a little earlier were the first hints of something unusual going on inside of atoms.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now in the centennial decade of the development and discovery of quantum physics.
Interesting.
A whole realm that
of
enabled computers.
Absolutely.
There is no storage,
Yes.
creation, storage, or retrieval
Right.
of information, digital information, without an exploitation of the quantum.
That's
Quantum physics.
Right.
Oh my gosh. What a segue that was.
Thank
Right
you,
back
Neil.
to the
You're very
handy
kind.
Handy
answer book
answer
for quantum
book.
physics.
Yeah.
Yo, that's really cool, man. That's
Here's something that clearly will never come true because it hasn't come true yet.
Okay.
Every sci-fi movie
Yes.
in the future,
Mhm.
everyone's wearing the same clothes.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Everybody, they got these shoulder things,
Mhm.
and they're all wearing the same.
I am Gleep. Right.
Right?
Exactly. Right.
We have resisted that
Yes.
to this day.
And I think that's because it's one of the easiest things to resist. We want to make things uniform. We want to make things predictable, but we want to keep ourselves unpredictable
As individuals.
as
Right,
individuals.
right.
And what's the
Very good.
easiest way
The
to do
easiest
that?
way
Is wear
of
something different.
self-expression is
Yeah.
to what you put on your body,
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
good,
Yeah.
good. I like that.
or not.
Okay.
As anybody who has a young child knows, they will go through a phase where they're like, "I'm going to be naked, and this is just how I am," you know.
I remember those days. They were very freeing.
Yes, and it's just like we're at a restaurant. You can't do it right now. It's just like I don't care about your food. I want to be naked.
Is that how your children speak? I had a 16-year-old high school girl
Yeah.
in this office, in fact, that chair,
Oh.
who was not even part of the original invite
Oh.
of who came to my office.
Uh-huh.
It was her boyfriend,
Oh.
who was a big astrophysics fan, and he just dragged her. Only would I learn, because I like engaging everyone who comes into my office, because there were 4 of them in there, because it was the kid, his sister, both their parents, and the guy's girlfriend.
Okay.
And she was just sitting there, and I just try to engage everybody. And I'd say, what are you into? And I forgot what she said, but she said she really likes Star Trek.
Hey.
And I said, she's 16. I said, whoa, like, by how much do you like Star Trek? She said, I brought you a gift. I don't know how she got it. This is the Federation trivia book,
Wow.
Mission 1 and Mission 2.
Whoa.
This is back when, this is like typewriter
Yeah.
typeface.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let's see if Charles can maintain
Oh, he's gonna
his geek and
he's gonna
chief.
blow
I
this.
like- oh, I
he's gonna
can-
blow it away.
I'm not.
I'll play
I'm not
along
sure,
for fun,
guys.
but
I'm
Okay.
not that good
This
with
is
this sort of
like
stuff.
50 pages.
I'm not that
Here
good
it
with this sort
is.
of stuff.
All right,
there we go.
here we go. Revised 2nd edition,
Ah.
1976.
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Who is DC Fontana?
Oh, she was a very famous science fiction writer who wrote a number of beautiful episodes of Star Trek.
Look at what I tell you.
Okay,
This guy's,
okay. What is Spock's last name?
You couldn't pronounce it.
Good answer.
Well played.
Well played.
Well played.
Well played. Okay. What is Sulu's first name?
Hikaru.
Damn.
Look at you, man.
Okay.
Killing this.
Just getting lucky, guys.
In what year was Flint born?
I do not know.
Who's Flint?
I don't remember
Flint?
Flint.
What happened to Scotty in The Changeling?
I should know this, but I don't. He got changed, I guess, into a ling.
Okay. Name the woman Kirk cannot help loving.
Is that Joan Collins?
No, isn't it the nurse? Nurse.
Chapel?
Oh,
Nurse
that's
Chapel?
right. No, but it's not
No,
Nurse
no,
Chapel. They made him love her.
Well,
Oh.
there was one where when he touched the tears of a particular alien woman, you would have to fall in love with this woman.
Right.
But
Oh.
unfortunately, they actually broke that spell because his one true love was
Is the Enterprise. I remember
oh my
that.
gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
see, I want to be Kirk. I'm
he,
Kirk.
he loves his
I'm
ship
totally
more.
Kirk on that.
Right.
A couple more, just a
But
couple more.
that's because he had, sex with so many aliens.
I know, right? Right?
It was like, whatever.
Right?
Yes.
Who is Jojo Krako? Charles.
Sorry,
Charles,
guys.
you know,
I'm not
we're
that
gonna have
That's
good at this
obscure.
sort of stuff.
Jojo Krako.
Oh,
Sounds
okay.
like someone from the Piece of the Action, but I don't remember the exact name.
Oh, that was one of my least favorite episodes.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Okay.
Worst gangster name ever.
Well, that was the point. They were trying to.
Yeah,
make
see,
effective-
I'm Jojo Krako. See, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
What was the planet in the Man Trap?
It was the planet. Hey.
I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know that one. Alas.
Okay, so you're not infallible. That was the
Absolutely
evidence. That's
not.
what we needed here.
Oh, please.
Our
Yes.
geek in chief has some blind spots.
Yeah, the blind
As
spots
well I
that you would
should.
have to be a writer of Star Trek not to have. You have to be one of the writers.
When I think of science fiction and storytelling embedded within it, often it's not just allegory for the challenges that we face in everyday life. At its best, it's that, yes. But for me, they also represent dream states of a future that if we try hard enough, that we can make happen. And we know it's not going to happen without our collective investments, without our collective sense of what we want to be there waiting for us in the future. But I ask myself, without science fiction, would we still be in the caves? Without somebody thinking about a future and what role science, technology, invention, innovation, without what role those could play in our lives, I don't want to live in that world. I want to always live, not just believing, but knowing that we will all be living differently tomorrow than we are today. And not just differently, living better. Star Trek not only gave us a glimpse into what the future of science and technology might bring, each episode, at its best, was also a morality tale. Because what good is the power of science and technology going into the future without the wisdom to harness it, to do right by it, to do right by your neighbor in the presence of such power? So, if there's a world without science fiction, I don't want to live in it. Keep it coming so that we can all dream about a tomorrow that's better than today. That is a cosmic perspective. The two of you, professionally in your lives, have served as radio announcers.
Correct.
That is true.
Okay, so I have not, but I've pretended I was at times. I want you in sequence to give me your smoothest radio voice saying, "This has been StarTalk. Keep looking up." Okay? Your smoothest radio voice. We're going to come down the line here, and the audience is going to get it 3 times. Okay, go. Charles.
This has been StarTalk. Keep looking up.
This has been StarTalk. Keep looking up.
This has been StarTalk. Keep looking up.
you.